University of Cebu, and Subang Dako, of course, my neighbor. Okay, Mr. Francisco Navarro. Okay. Hi, good morning, Miss Jera. Professor Jera, good
Good
morning.
morning, Sir Al.
Okay, yes, it's a beautiful Friday morning here with this wonderful sun, and this is our time to learn about graphical tool to learn statistics. So, and Miss Jera, we always, I noticed na we usually have some suki. You have lots of suki here. So I see Dan, Cinco, I see some friends again who are here. Good morning po. We have from Cantila National High School, Surigao. Okay, sa Kantilan, Alvi, Mayong Buntag, and we have Christopher Escote from Al's Antique. Okay, and well, we are starting our program in 3 minutes as we believe time is very important. And we are hoping all of you nakapag-breakfast na po ba? Or how is your day? Okay. Miss Jera, we have Miss Zinaya Dulce from Tacloban, and we have Dancy. Ah, yes. Oh, our Dr. Gretchen Chavez is here. She is our chair or coordinator of the Research Ethics Committee of UP Cebu. Wow,
Good
this is
morning.
Hi, good morning, Miss Gretch. She is our parent of research and how to give constructive criticism to people without breaking their heart. Okay, thank you very much. That's a gift, no, in doing research. How to advise people that you are doing the wrong methodology in the best manner, and that is from Dr. Gretchen Chavez. Okay, so once again, welcome to our webinar series, and this is about how to use graphical tool in doing research. I am Aurelio Bilbar from UP Cebu College of Social Sciences, and this is brought to you by UP Cebu TLRC, which stands for Teaching and Learning Resource Center. Okay, so Ms. Jera, would you like to give us some reminders on the proper behavior? I know you've been listening to Ms. Jera for more than 6 months, but these are the way to do it to use proper ethics. Professor Jera?
Okay, so everyone, good morning. We already have a very energetic host this morning. Yeah, I know the morning is quite slow, but here in the island is quite sunny, and I hope everyone is energized today. Before anything else, because we will start at exactly 9:30 in the morning, and we already have our speaker, I would like to say hi to everyone, especially those who are always joining us in our webinars here in TLRC. Okay, so um, Michael, Noel, are we okay? We'll start at 9:30.
Yes,
Kindly give me a heads up. Thank you so much. Okay, for few reminders, let me share my screen. Okay. So just a little bit of reminders. I know some of you already memorized these reminders, but I still have to remind. The webinar will be recorded, and we will be keeping tab of the proceedings of this webinar for documentation purposes. You are free to leave if you feel uncomfortable that this session will be recorded. Mute your microphone during the talk because we want to make sure that the speaker's voice is clear to everyone. We may opt to remove you if you don't follow these requests, and refrain from taking pictures or videos of the talk. If you do so, you'll be held accountable for data privacy violations if the copy you created leaks into internet outlet. We wish to keep the identity of our participants private, so is yours as well. And avoid using the annotation tool because sometimes we like to play around with the icons that can be found in our screen, but please do note that you cannot use the annotation tool because sometimes you might unconsciously swerve your arrow towards the speaker's presentation and draw unnecessary lines that may block the participant's view. Okay. And then, if you have questions when the talk is ongoing, you may put them in the chat box, and after the talk, you will have a chance to ask your questions. Although we wish for you to only use the chat box rather than voice because of our time constraint. And Don't forget to evaluate because your inputs on the webinar will help us improve our next webinars. After you have answered the forms, you will be given a proof of your participation. We have a YouTube live stream currently right now at the TLRC UP Cebu for those who cannot attend us through our Zoom meeting. For those watching through YouTube, you will still get your proof of participation by staying until the end of the session. We'll be announcing the instructions at the live chat, so please stay tuned. Our socials, if you still wanted to know us more, find us at Teaching and Learning Resource Center, University of the Philippines, Cebu, Facebook page, and of course the TLRC UP Cebu at YouTube, or at the tlrc.upcebu.edu.ph, or if you have inquiries or if you have questions or you wanted some clarifications, you can ask us through lrc.upcebu@up.edu.ph. I hope this morning will be a learning experience for everyone, especially those who really wanted to know how to use statistical tools in their researches. Thank you so much, Sir Al. I'll give this back to you before Michael introduces our speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much. So those are really gentle reminders for us on how to do some proper etiquette in our proceedings sa ating TLRC webinar series. And we have last greeting from Rizaline Coleman. Good morning from Virgen Milagrosa University Foundation, San Carlos City, Pangasinan. Okay, good morning. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome one of the staff of PLRC to introduce Professor Hazel Trapero. Round of applause, please, to Mr. Michael Andrew. Go, Michael. Okay, Michael, please, and unmute your microphone.
Okay, so thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us here at TLRC. So it is my honor to introduce our resource speaker this morning. She is a Microsoft Innovative Educator and teaches IT subjects for more than 20 years now. She finished her Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering at Cebu Institute of Technology last 2000 and finished her Master of Science in Information Technology at the University of San Jose Recoletos last 2010. She finished her Doctor in Information Technology at De La Salle University, Manila last 2020, where she received the Research Excellence Award. At present, she is a faculty member and the Public Information Officer of the College of Social Sciences of the University of the Philippines, Cebu. Everyone, let us give a virtual applause to Dr. Hazel Trapero. Good morning, Doc Hazel.
Good morning, Doc Hazel.
Everyone. Good morning po sa lahat. Good morning, Dr. Vilbar, Professor Jera, Michael, Noel. So thank you very much for the opportunity. So let me share my screen first. Okay na ba, Sir Michael? Can I share now?
Yes,
Yes po.
Okay po. For a while, ha? For a while. Excuse me. Sorry. Sharing my screen.
Okay, so well, I think this is also the best time to greet our friends who are watching here. So we have Gayleen Magalang, Manalang. Good morning from greetings from Manila. We have Rhea Teresa. Good morning, watching from Bislig City, Mayong Buntag. We have Abigail Hernandez from Laguna. Keep safe, Laguna. We understand all your challenges there now. And we have from so we have Vanessa Duyar from MSU IIT. MSU, congratulations for your celebration. I think you have, I know there's something, I know it's more than 100 years or 50 years. Okay. Yes. Okay, once again, please help me welcome Professor Hazel Trapero. Dr. Hazel?
Okay. While
Okay, so what
can
we can
you
see now
can
is,
you see my
yeah, that's
slide now?
better.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
So again, good morning everyone. Pwede po ba mag-disclaimer dito? So actually, I'm not a statistician, but I have several experiences with regard to the use of statistical tool because, like for example, Smart PLS. This is what one of the statistical tools that we were using during my study at De La Salle University with my professor with regard to research and conducting research and data analysis. Okay, so I'm in the information technology department. So I'm basically sharing with you my experience on how to use Smart PLS. Not much on the statistical part, but I have some knowledge regarding that. Okay, so now I'll be sharing my experience with you in using the Smart PLS, which is a graphical tool for teaching and learning data analysis in research. Now, before I have the overview, I would like to share that I'm a visual person. So for me, among the statistical tools that I've used, I find Smart PLS parang medyo easy to use for me because when the more I see graphics, the more I see drawings, the more I understand what I am doing. So that's why this webinar is being conducted, at least to share my experience with you. Okay, so as an overview, now what are the tools used in statistical and data analysis? So there are actually lots of statistical tools. Siguro may mga statisticians dito, you can relate to this. We have lots of tools to be used, but I'll be presenting some common ones that are being used by the statisticians in with regard to data analysis. So number one, we have the Stata, or shortcut for statistics data. So how many of you have used this? So actually, this is general purpose statistical software package, diba? So it is created by Stata Corporation. And then we also have, yes, Ma'am Fioglo Baluyot is using SPSS. So this is another tool. This is the one of the most commonly used tools for statistical analysis, data analysis. And SPSS stands for Statistical Package for the Social Sciences by IBM, obviously. So IBM is International Business Machines. So this is also a software for analyzing data and running statistical tests. And another common tool that are being used is R. So how many of you who can relate to this? So R is also a language and environment for statistical computing, and also have a little sort of graphics, diba? So, and lastly, yes, there were also some mention about JSP and other statistical tools. So there are lots, but the tool that I'll be sharing with you is regarding the Smart PLS. Okay. So by the way, among these 4 commonly used statistical tools, I think R is, many can relate to the use of R because R is an open source. So there's no requirement for license, not like the STATA, the SPSS, and the PLS. Smart PLS, by the way, is with license, but you can acquire the free version of it. Okay? So actually, ako matagal na po akong gumagamit ng Smart PLS na free version. So it's doing fine with me. So I hope you can try this. You can just install and everything and try everything. Okay. So yes, according to Sir Nori Lord, the movie is also a freeware. Yes. So there are lots actually. So now, since I'll be talking about Smart PLS for now, so let's try to have a short description of what Smart PLS is all about. So it is an easy-to-use software with graphical user interface for variance-based structural equation modeling using the partial least squares path modeling. So I know the statisticians here are familiar with PLS or partial least squares. So this is what Smart PLS is all about. So it's a path modeling. Diba sa statistics natin, correct me if I'm right, we have two possible analysis. We have the factor analysis and the path analysis. So for Smart PLS, it can do path modeling method. So what does this mean? It has regressions and covariances between latent variables. So when we say latent variables, ito po ay yung mga unobserved variables, yung hindi katulad ng mga measurable variables. Okay? But when we say factor analysis, it has only regression. So yan yung pagkakaiba sa Smart PLS to some of the tools. But I think majority of the tools can do this also. Okay, so what are the features and benefits? So number one, we have, as I've said earlier, so fun and hassle-free. And this is what you are going to see later on during the demonstration. So you can get deep insights into your data easily in just minutes. So let's you create a path model in minutes. You can customize your model with colors, borders, fonts. You can actually play with the objects, so based on your preference. And then we have built-in explanations for the algorithms, and meaningful defaults give you easy start into the PLSM world. And it has well-organized reports, provide full insights into your results. Create data groups to run multi-group analysis effortlessly. And lastly, you can save your results permanently as HTML report or Excel file. Okay? So since we have limited time only, so I think Professor Jera had only allotted 1 hour for me. So I cannot discuss everything, but for the sake of demo purposes, the focus of the demonstration would be regarding the pilot test. So pilot test, a brief description for those who are not statisticians here. So when we say pilot test, it is a small preliminary study used to test a proposed research study before full-scale performance. So that is parang pareho siya nung actual conduct of the study, but this is just the preliminary. So the purpose of this is to the primary purpose of this is to evaluate the feasibility of proposed major study. So titingnan kung feasible ba yung proposed study, primarily on the questionnaire that you are going to use, the questionnaire that you have developed. And then the pilot test may also be used to estimate costs and necessary sample size of a greater study. Okay, and also baka malilito po tayo. So pilot test can sometimes be called pilot experiment, pilot project, pilot study, feasibility study, or pilot run. So pare-pareho lang po sila. Okay? So when we conduct the pilot test, first thing to prepare is the questionnaire. So when you have the questionnaire, when you have the research or when you have a study, you should try to look for possible set of questions that can answer what you are looking for and what data can answer the research questions in your study. Okay, so if your questionnaire is adopted from a certain or from the previous study as is, meaning walang binabago, so there's no need for you to create or to conduct a pilot test. But if your questionnaire is coming from different previous studies, so like for example, you got the first set of questions from this study number 1, and the second part of the set of questions are coming from study number 2. So if that's the case, then you will conduct a pilot test to test the feasibility of your questionnaire. Or if the set of questions are coming from one paper, but you change some parts of it, then still you need to conduct a pilot test of your questionnaire. Okay. Now, I will show you a sample questionnaire. This is just a sample, but this is an excerpt coming from one of my studies. So, can you see the image? Klaro po ba?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, sige. So, if you have noticed, the first part here is demographics, which include the name, the contact numbers, the gender, the age, the marital status, and others. And the second part, at the bottom part, if you have noticed, there are 3 sets, but which are labeled performance expectancy, effort expectancy, and social influence. Now, these 3 sets, these 3 are actually variables of the theoretical framework that I am using, or where the study is anchored on. So, example, I have performance expectancy as one of the variables in the theoretical framework. Then in your questionnaire, you have sets of questions that can possibly answer the research questions regarding the performance expectancy. And another set, effort expectancy, it has also a set of questions that can possibly assess or evaluate this particular variable, and so on and so forth. Now, when you conduct the pilot test using the SMART PLS, what you can only consider are the Likert scale part. So, familiar po ba tayo sa Likert scale? So, example of Likert scale, yung mga questions that are answerable by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which refers to 1 for strongly disagree, 2 disagree. So if you have a set of questions that has answers similar to this, then those are part of your Likert scale. Now, for SMART PLS, what you can only evaluate or what you can only test are the Likert scale part. Now, what happened to the demographics, which are basically qualitative? So for qualitative, sa amin as practice, ang qualitative will be assessed by an expert in the field, or a psychometrician, or whoever is capable of assessing the qualitative part. But for the SMART PLS, again, as I've said earlier, so it can only test the data coming from the Likert scale part of your questionnaire. Now, if you have already the set of data for this, diba, nag-pilot test na po tayo. We let them answer the questions in a questionnaire, and then you have to tally all the answers in this format. Itong table on top of the Likert scale. So nakikita po ba natin yung table? So ito yung basically this is the so basically this is the format of your clean database. So you will open a spreadsheet, for example, and then input everything. Now, if you have noticed in the database, the columns are labeled. First column is labeled PE1. Second column is labeled PE2. I hope it's visible. It's very small, I think. So these labels are the codes of your questions. So like, for example, the green colored 4 columns. These are actually, PE1 is actually the code for the first question of performance expectancy. PE2 is the code given to the second question for performance expectancy, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we should properly label them and by column. So the data here, the numbers here are coming from the respondent. So for example, the first 7 on under PE1 is the answer of the first respondent of this particular question. And so yung second 7 sa column na first column is the answer of the first question from the second respondent, and so on and so forth. Okay, so basically this is the format of your data so that the smart PLS can read it properly. Okay, now when you're done tallying everything, please save your data as .csv. Again, please save your data as .csv because only the CSV file can be read by smart PLS during the path modeling. Okay, so questions so far? Okay na to dito? Okay, so assuming that we are done tallying and we are done saving our file as .csv, now I will show you for the demonstration, we will be having this example. So like, for example, you have a study regarding augmented reality in innovating pedagogy, ethical issues, and persuasive technologies. So ito po yung abstract. And then that particular research is anchored on this particular framework. So that research was anchored on HM-SAM framework, or the hedonic motivation system adoption model. Now, how many oblongs are there in the first diagram? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7. There are 7 variables in the original framework. Now, in my research model, in my study, I use this research model. If you have noticed, there are additional constructs or additional variables, which are experiences and physiological effects. Now, in our smart PLS, we will only use the data from the 7 original variables because the data here under the 7 variables are in Likert scale. Experiences and physiological effects are qualitative data. Therefore, we cannot test them using the smart PLS. Okay. Now, please, patulong po please take a screenshot because I would like to ask help from you later during the variable creation and tracing. So again, please, when we trace later in the path model using the smart PLS, we will not include experience and physiological effects. Only the 7 original variables, since they are patterned in Likert scale. Okay? Tapos na po ba yung screenshot natin?
Okay po, Doc.
Okay po. So, sige, thank you, Prof. Jera. So, I will proceed. Now, this is a sample .csv file. So, ito yung data, actually clean copy na siya nung particular sample research that I've shown earlier. So if you have noticed, they are labeled accordingly. So the column labels are Joy 1, Joy 2, Joy 3, and so on and so forth. Okay? And these are the data. So dapat yung data nyo, ganito yung hitsura. Okay? So now, when we do the smart PLS, we should remember these values. First, ito alam to ng mga statisticians. So we have the Cronbach's alpha. What do you mean by Cronbach's alpha? Cronbach alpha is actually the measure of internal consistency. That is how closely related a set of items are as a group. So yan yung ini-evaluate no Cronbach's alpha. Now, for the Cronbach alpha, the acceptable values are 0.7 or higher. So otherwise, it's considered as poorly acceptable or not acceptable. Now, for the composite, we should also remember the composite reliability values. Now, the acceptable, actually, composite value is measures the convergent validity. So, which means the degree to which the two constructs or variables are supposedly related should be related. So, still, the acceptable values is 0.7 or higher. Otherwise, they are poorly acceptable or not acceptable. Okay. So here is the environment of Smart PLS, which I'll be demonstrating later. Now, if you have noticed, the wider area here, the wide area here is the workspace where you are going to draw your diagram. And then at the upper left is the Project Explorer panel, Project Explorer panel. So where you can see all the projects that you have done based on your existing studies. And then at the lower right, lower left is the indicators panel. If you have noticed, yung mga codes ng set of questions natin, yun yung makikita natin dito. Okay, you can find here the codes that corresponds to each question in your questionnaire. Okay. So I will explain the details about this later. And then at the right side here, you can see the formatting panel where you can format your objects here. Okay. So this is the environment of Smart PLS. Okay. Questions so far?
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Doc
Okay.
Hayes.
Yes, can we answer this, Ms. Jera, or later? Or,
Okay,
We can
yes,
answer
sure.
this because it's just short. So one
Okay.
question is, do the numbers represent the frequency of the responses
Mhm.
in the data? I think she was, they were referring to the data that can be found in the CSV and translated into the Smart PLS data input.
the numbers there represent the exact response of the respondents. Like for example, for question number 1, do you agree that this one is okay? So, pag sinagot niya dun 7, so exactly 7 yung ilalagay dun, not
Okay,
the frequency.
So it is the actual response or
Yes.
actual value given by the participant.
Yes.
The second question is, why are the numbers 1 to 7 if the scale is only from 1 to 5? I think this was for the piloting.
Yes.
So
The one that I've shown earlier is just a sample Likert scale value, just a set of sample Likert scale. So, but that doesn't mean that that was used in the actual research.
okay.
Just
So-
for the explanation purpose yung 5. Baka po may hindi familiar dun sa Likert scale. but for the study that I've shown, it used seven scales.
Okay, so it used 7 scales. So a Likert scale can range from 1 to 3, 1 to
Yes.
5, and 1 to 7. Some Likert
1 to
scale can
7.
even can get up to 1 to 10. So in
Yes.
most cases, Likert scales are usually to give more choices or accurate choices for the participants. Usually it's 1 to 7.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's
Yes.
for the demonstration. We can
Okay.
we can continue now. Thank you, Doc Hayes.
By the way, in our with our paper at De La Salle University, we actually are encouraged to use the most number of scales so that you can have a more appropriate response from the respondents. Pero pwede rin gumamit nung scale 1 to 3 and 1 to 5 depending on the decision of the researchers. Kung
Okay.
hindi masyadong parang wide yung coverage niya, pwede naman. Okay? See.
Thank you, Doc Hayes.
Okay. Thank you. So should I proceed
Thank you.
to the demonstration now? Is
Yes,
it
please.
okay? I'll
Yes, please,
stop
Dr.
my
Hazel.
slides now and I'll shift to the app. Can you see the Smart PLS app now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is ready-made na po ito. Ginawa ko po ito as testing. Okay? But for the demonstration, we will be opening a new project. Sorry, I explained already the environment, no? So when you create, ito po yung mga projects na nagawa. But if you are going to create a new project, just click this button here. This is create a new project button at the upper portion, second to the left button. Okay, so for example, we will, since the example is about AR pedagogy, so we will just write here AR pedagogy. Okay. Three, for example. Okay, and then have you noticed the AR Pedagogy 3 project? This one, can you see it? And dito siya sa
Yes,
middle.
Doc Hayes.
It is located at the middle. So if you have observed, there are two items there. Number one, we have the, it is labeled double click to import data. And the second item is AR Pedagogy 3 path model. Now, this is what I said earlier. Now, yung prepared data natin in .csv, you will upload it here. Itong may nagsasabing double click to import data. So I will double click this and I will look for the .csv file. For example, this one. So, and then open and then okay. So if you have noticed, the AR Pedagogy 3 have already this green colored cylinder icon. So this is already, this means that the data in that CSV file is are already uploaded and imported. If you have noticed at the lower right, at the lower left, automatically nag-appear yung mga indicators which are the codes of each of your questions. And these are the data, the results, the mean, the median, and so on and so forth. But since we are about to create the path model, so i-delete ko itong iba para hindi malito. Okay, so again, This means that the data entered in that CSV are already uploaded. Now, we will try to create a new path model. So when we create a new path model based on this set of data, we will click new path model. Can you see my mouse arrow? It's at the third icon, new path model. So I click this, and then I will name. If there is no path model created yet, so click the new path model and then write the name and okay. But in this case, if you have noticed earlier when I created the project AR Pedagogy 3, the path model AR Pedagogy 3 is already created. So all you have to do is to just double click this and you can see a clean worksheet. Okay. Now, if you can still remember, I let you take a screenshot of the theoretical framework. Please try to look at it and please help me on what are the circles or what are the variables that we are going to put here. Okay. So what are we going to do first? Now, what we are going to insert, or we are going to create the series of variables first, the circles. If you have noticed in the images, sample images before earlier, so the colored blue circles. So those represent the variables. Now, in order for us to have those blue circles, we will click latent variables. Is it visible? Latent variable here. So click this and then click anywhere in the worksheet. How many variables do we have? Can you still remember? I think it's 7, no? 7. Okay, thank you. So you can have 7 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you can arrange the circles if you like. Now, question. Baka magtanong kayo, bakit red? Diba? Yung mga circles natin kanina, blue. Now, these circles were turned blue if all the circles and all the indicators are properly connected. For now, they are colored red because it's not yet done and there are no connections made yet. Okay, so you can arrange. Now, if these are the number of circles that you need, then you can actually click back select so that you can arrange your circles. All you just need to do is drag and drop. So drag and drop lang. Okay, so ganito. So, kayo na pong bahala dun sa arrangement. And then we will start labeling. Now, what is the first variable at the left side? What's the name of the variable? So we will name this circle according to the first variable at the left side, at the leftmost. So all you just need to do is to right click and rename. So what's the first variable? Yes, yes, Professor Perita, perceived ease of use. So we will label this perceived ease of use. Okay, and then the second variable, which is I think at the uppermost part, yung nasa middle. So right click, rename. We have usefulness. Okay, thank you. So usefulness, and then next variable piece. Sorry, I cannot memorize. Curiosity. Thank you. Third variable in the middle. Joy. Okay. Joy. And then the fourth variable is control. Thank you. control. Okay, so we will go to the third column. So what is the first variable in the third column? We have immersion, if I'm not mistaken. Immersion or behavioral intention to use. Okay, so behavioral intention to use. And the last one is immersion. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Okay. So all the variables, all the latent variables are properly labeled already. Now, the next thing you will do is to trace the arrow. Now, regarding the tracing of arrow, hindi pwedeng baligtad. So we should properly direct the arrow to whatever variable it is intended to. For example, the perceived ease of use. May I know where the arrow of perceived ease of use is going through or is pointing? Is it all the variables? Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, so what you are going to do next is to click this connect button, connect icon right beside the latent variable and start tracing the arrow. So what you will do is to just click from the first variable, in this case, perceived ease of use, click perceived ease of use and then drag to usefulness and click again perceived ease of use and curiosity. Click here and perceived ease of use to here. Okay? Correct po ba yung arrow natin papunta sa middle variables? Okay. Next, saan po pupunta yung arrow ng usefulness? Saan natin ipo-point? To behavioral intention? Is it correct? Behavioral intention and immersion. Is it immersion? Okay. How about curiosity? Curiosity. So I will look at the drawing. The last. Okay, for a while na, I will look at the. So isa lang pala yung. Okay, so undo. So usefulness is to perceived usefulness is going to behavioral intention and curiosity is going to behavioral intention and immersion and joy is going to behavioral intention and immersion. And lastly, control is going towards immersion. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. So maybe you will ask, Miss, complete na po yung arrow, bakit red pa po yung mga circles? Because we haven't we haven't assigned the indicators yet. So what you are going to do next is to assign these indicators to each of the variables. So refer to the lower left panel of the environment. So the first 6 items here are referring to joy. So I will highlight 1 to 6. And then I will just simply drag this towards joy. Okay, what have you noticed? The circle turns to blue already. And then the indicators that are colored yellow are already attached to the particular variable. Now, it is the indicators are actually by default located at the left. You can actually adjust it so that your project or your objects appear neatly. So all you just need to do is to right click and then I'm sorry. So right click and then arrange, or I will put it at the lower part. Okay. And then, okay. So if you have noticed also under indicators, the items joy 1 to 6 are already colored yellow. This is because all these items are already completely assigned to the designated variable. Okay, for the second one, control 1 to control 6, I will drag this to control. And then I will transfer to the bottom. Okay. And then F1. By the way, in the research, F1 and FI and PD are part of the immersion. So may literature po tayo dito. So for the sake of demonstration, diretso na lang natin lagay dito. So we can arrange and then curve for the curiosity. We'll put here arrange and then PEOU to perceived ease of use, and PU drag to perceived usefulness. We can put the indicators at the upper portion also. And then lastly, we have the BIU with 3 sets of questions. Okay. So if you have noticed, all the circles are already colored blue, and you have the indicators properly assigned to each of the variables. So this means that our objects, our diagram is already complete. Now, once this is complete, you can save and then start the calculation now. Is the calculate button visible for you? It is located at the upper right portion. So once you're done drawing, by the way, the one that I said earlier regarding the change of color, you can already change the color, but it is advisable not to change the color while you are composing, while you are constructing the diagram, because you might get confused of whether it's complete already or not. So you can just change the colors after, once the design is already clear and complete. Okay, so when everything is done, click calculate. Now, if you have noticed, there are lots of options. For the pilot test, use the PLS algorithm. But for the path modeling, use the bootstrapping. Okay, again, for the pilot test, we will use PLS algorithm. But if you are going to know or to test the correlations between variables for the path modeling already, then that's the time that you will use bootstrapping. Now, since we are still in the pilot test, so we will use PLS algorithm. Okay. What have you noticed? Can you see the dialog box? It's partial least squares algorithm. Now, if you have noticed, the first selection here is weighting scheme. There are 3 possible weighting schemes that we can choose from. We have centroid, we have factor, path, and we have path. We have factor and we have path. Now, since we are still conducting the pilot test, we can choose the factor. Okay po ba? Factor po tayo pa pilot test, but etong path, pwede natin gamitin later. Okay, for the path analysis. Now, maximum iterations, by default, it's 300. But you can actually change it to higher numbers to be more accurate. So the higher the number of iterations, the more accurate the results would be. But ito lang po yung parang drawback niya, pag medyo mataas yung number of iteration niya, the more computing power it would require. Okay? Now, for the stop criterion, ito, by default, it's 7. So, as is na lang muna yan. Hindi natin pakialaman yan because, as I've said earlier, we're not, I'm not a statistician, but it says here that the smaller the number of stop criterion, the better. Okay? So, yung ina-adjust lang natin dito yung weighting schemes, which is factor. And then if you're done, again, as I've said, you can change the maximum iterations, but for now, we will use the default. So if you're done, you can click Start Calculation. Okay, so meron na siyang nakikitang mga results dito. But going back to the, babalikan natin to, but we will just go back to the path analysis. What have you noticed in the path model? There are values already, right? So we have values for the variables inside the circle, and we have values on each of the indicators. Now, this part here is what we call the factor loading, or specifically the outer loading. May dalawa po yung factor analysis, if I'm not mistaken, no? Mga statisticians po patulong. So may dalawa, we have inner loading and outer loading. So ito po yung outer loading. But you can actually refer to the Cronbach's alpha value, diba? Yung as I've presented earlier. So we have it is accepted if it's 0.7 or higher. Pwede nating gamitin yung values na yun to assess each of the indicators here in the factor loading parang view. Okay? So if you have noticed, there are a few indicators that are lower than 0.7. So, hanap tayo dito. Like, for example, meron po ba? Ito, may 0.544, may 0.301 under immersion, and so on and so forth. So, what you will do is to remove one at a time. Again, remove those smaller values one at a time. Hindi pwedeng tanggalin lahat or else wala ka na maiwan na questions. Okay? So, for example, in this case, yung pinakamababa dito ay parang 0.3 lang yata. So, eto. Like for example, this one, 0.301. So what I will do is to remove this indicator. I will delete. And if you are deleting or removing one indicator, which means you are removing that particular question in your questionnaire, then all you need to do is to calculate again. So you need to calculate again because there's a tendency that when you remove one variable, one indicator, all the values will change. Okay. So again, calculate PLS algorithm and then start calculation. Okay, so go back to your diagram. If you have noticed, may nagbabago na mga indicators, the values. Okay. Now, what if there are lots of indicators that have lower than 0.7 as because the 0.7 is our ideal value based on the Cronbach's alpha. So what if marami sila? So anong pwedeng natin gawin? Diba? As much as fun kasi yung sa practice natin, as much as possible, we will try to save the questions. So what you will do is to, aside from removing one by one, one at a time, then if there are still some other indicators that have lower than 0.7, then there's no need for us to remove all of them all the time, as long as hindi siya mababa. Why? So we have another set of results here. Aside from this, we will go to PLS algorithm. Now, please focus your attention here at the lower part of the PLS algorithm set. Can you see? I think it's very small, no? The texts are very small, but if you have noticed, there are 4 columns: the final results, the quality criteria, interim results, and base data. Now, please focus your attention under the quality criteria, specifically construct, reliability, and validity. Okay? So, ito. Here, you can see the matrix. You can see the Cronbach's alpha, the raw, the composite reliability, and average variance extracted. Now, this is where you can see the Cronbach's alpha. What have you noticed in the Cronbach's alpha? Lahat po ba sila lumagpas ng 0.7? Lumagpas, ano? Yes. Okay. So this means that even if you have indicators that are lower than 0.7 here, it does not mean that you remove everything. Kasi yung purpose natin dito is to save the questions. Pero advisable pa rin na mas marami tayong question during the pilot test, so that when we remove, at least there are still a number of those that are left. Okay? So in here, going back, all the variables have reached 0.7 and higher. So this means that all your indicators are already okay. Basta hindi lang masyadong mababa. Okay? But this is just one of the reliability tests. Meron pang maraming reliability tests. So we have the composite reliability. Check natin kung 0.7 or higher ba. So in this case, higher po sila lahat. And then we also have the average variance extracted. So yung average variance extracted, yung boundary niya is 0.5, not like the Cronbach's alpha. So if all the values are 0.5 and up, then this means that all your questions are okay, and the questionnaire is okay. Okay, so Cronbach's alpha, we have the path analysis here. By the way, wala kayong question dito? Wala kayong question kayo? Yes.
Okay. Let me read the questions. As of now, I didn't see any question.
May question si Miss
Ito,
Christina.
Christina Ido, how come there's no value inside the circle for perceived ease of use?
Okay. Now, if you have noticed, thank you for the question. Kasi yun yung hinihintay ko na question. So, if you have noticed, perceived ease of use has no value. Why? Because this is your independent variable. Walang arrow na pumupunta sa perceived ease of use. Okay? So, walang arrow, wala siyang ma-identify na value. But, if you have noticed also, we are only referring to the values in the indicators, yung mga yellow rectangles, no? Diba? So, hindi natin pinapansin yung mga values ng circle. Why? Because this part here is still a pilot test. meaning we are concerned of the values of the indicators, whether they are acceptable or not. We are not yet identifying the correlations between variables. But later on, when you try to get the correlation, now these values are very important. But this is not yet the actual value, because if you can still remember, when we calculate, we use PLS algorithm. When we test the correlations, we will use the bootstrapping, and from there you can refer already to the variable, the values of each blue circle. Okay, so okay po ba? I hope I have answered the question. Okay, thank you. So any other question? Now, ako personally, I would like to see this diagram, no? Because the more I can see lots of images, the more I can see lots of designs, the more I can understand. But these values here are also very important. Okay? Now, meron pa pong isa. So we are done. Okay na po tayo sa construct reliability and validity. So ito lang po. Ganun lang po siya kasimple. So titingnan lang natin sila. Pag may mga variables that are lower than 0.5 for AVE, that means you need to re-evaluate. Meron ka dapat tatanggalin ng mga questions dun sa path model. Okay? Or in this case, Cronbach's alpha, pag one or some of the variables are below 0.7. So, ito po kasi yung threshold niya. So, pag below 7, now you still need to revisit the path model and remove one question kung saan yung pinakamababa. Okay? By practice, according to practice, so tatanggalin natin una yung pinakamababa. So, from the lowest value until mag-adjust na yung mga values. Okay? So, lastly, we still look at the discriminant validity. So, mga statisticians, eto patulong po dito. Pero, according to my experience, if you have noticed, di ba, may diagonal na values dito. Like for control, we have 0.716. So immersion, we have 0.744. Perceived ease of use, we have 0.772, and so on and so forth. Now, please try to look by column. Your first value here is 0.716. Now, if you think that there are no values greater than 0.716 here, then your questionnaire is okay. Okay, but if you have values greater than 0.716, then there is something wrong. You need to adjust. For example, in this case, control the value, first value here, the topmost value is 0.716. But if you have noticed here, we have 0.734, which is greater than 716, diba? So what we will do is to go back to the path model and look for the control variable. Nandito po siya sa baba. So if you have noticed, may isa dito, CTL3, which is 0.483, way below 0.701. So what you will do is to delete this and recalculate again. Recalculate. So path model and then start calculation. Okay, and proceed to discriminant validity. What have you noticed now? Under control. So tinanggal ko yung indicator na may 0.4 value. So the topmost here under control is 0.756. And if you have noticed, meron pa ring isa, 0.761. So what you are going to do is to visit again control and look for the lowest value there, which is below 0.7, and remove and run again, and so on and so forth, until you can see that this is already very clean. Please remember the topmost values here of each of the columns should be greater than the succeeding values. Okay. So, question so far? Okay na po tayo?
Well,
Now-
so far, wait, okay. This is a
So
question
far-
from Kachiri. How many
Yes.
minimum responses are needed to be able to adequately compute for the reliability or the convex alpha? Is there a requirement, minimum requirement to do in the pilot testing, Dr. Hazel?
Yes, for the pilot test, as far as I know, because this is also our practice, at least 30 or 35 will do for the pilot test. But the characteristics of the respondents in the pilot test should be similar to the characteristics of your actual respondents. Or if it's difficult to find a similar group, so at least near to the actual respondents.
Yes.
So
okay.
again, 30
Mhm.
to 35 will do.
So
Kung medyo,
30 to
medyo
30.
nahihirapan tayong kumuha ng...
Okay.
Okay. Doc Hayes, may we ask another question? I think this is also important. What is the difference between the covariance base and the PLS SAM path modeling? So if I'm not mistaken, I think they are referring to the two kinds. You have covariance base and path modeling for PLS SEM.
Oo. Hindi ako masyadong familiar doon kasi hindi ako statistician. So, pero as what I have understood about covariance, yun yung examining all the variables in relation to each other, if I'm not mistaken. But for the sake of regarding the differences that I still have to, baka mali yung explanation ko, so I still have to research about it. But maybe I think baka may mga statistician dito na nag-attend, baka they can answer your question. What I'm concerned about is only the use of PLS and the little things that I know of. So, yun lang po.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hazel. So yeah, so the purpose of this webinar is to use this particular software para things will become more graphic and easy to understand. So
Yes.
that's my perception, kanina, Miss Hazel, when you present the convex alpha, it's always 0.7. I think having the line that would go up would mean, yun pala yun. So
Yes.
people like me who would appreciate
Very clear.
visuals, it would be clearer than 0.05 and others. Thank you very much. And we have a comment from, okay, let me start. Well, everybody said thank you. And
Thank you very much.
Professor
You're
Baltas was
welcome.
very clear presentation. So perhaps let's wait for some possible comments.
Yes.
Yeah, question, Ms. Hayes. Is this for free? If it's not, how much? Do you happen to know the price?
Regarding
Sorry
the
for a
price,
very
I don't
blunt
have
question.
I
Okay.
don't have any idea of the price, but eto lang po yung experience ko. Parang 2 years na akong gumagamit ng free version. Hindi pa rin siya nag-expire. So I think I think it's good to try the app.
Wow.
Okay.
Sabi dito ni Fioglo Baloyot, student version is free. You might be using a student version. So
Yes.
I should okay. When you were a student, okay, so maybe that means you can use the free trial. So if you
But it has
can have the
actually
time, yes.
equally comprehensive validity and reliability and path model test.
Okay, thank you. And yes,
Another-
according to Joanne Roque, it's understandable presentation. Thank you very much, Doc. Yes,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Jera?
We have a question. Can we use PLS for ecological data as well? Because I think they are asking, because what you have presented to us are actually data from people. So I think true values coming from ecological data, as long as it's
what is the nature
statistical.
of the data in the ecological data? Is it Likert scale?
Usually in ecological data, or these are real values, either coming from, say for example, visual data such as temperatures, like that. So technically these aren't coming from Likert scale, but coming from real values taken from measuring tools.
Yeah. So I haven't tried that one, but our association is the Likert scale only
Okay.
for the statistical data.
Okay. Well, that's a very technical question in which I honestly don't really understand what's ecological data, but thank you
Yes.
na pwede po yun. Yeah, okay. There's so much to learn. And there's a question from Rizalyn Coleman. How do we present the Likert scale result by using the mean and its interpretation or percentage? What is your take on this? Mean or percentage or your interpretation?
Actually,
Mhm.
Smart PLS, if you have noticed, the first part of it, I showed you the automatic calculation of the mean, the percentage, and all. So it has everything. If
Another
that's what you
question.
mean, okay?
Another question, Doc, is I think this is for the conduct of the study. Can I do pilot interview before the approval of the project proposal? What do you think about this? But if they have a research ethics committee, I think Doc Hayes, if I'm not mistaken, they really have to wait for the approval of
Yes, correct.
the project.
Yes, because we are bound by research ethics. So everything that you'll do should be approved first before you do the actual conduct or the pilot test.
Okay. Another question, Doc Hayes. Although this is kind of it's also important because a lot of people think that a Likert scale will always have a value at the middle, which
Yes.
thinks it is neutral.
Yes.
Are there Likert scales, or are there available Likert scales, or can Likert scales do not have that kind of neutral value? So we have
Yes,
seen a couple
actually.
though.
Yes. Depending on the level of your, I actually experienced that. Now, it was approved by the researchers themselves. Kung gaano ka stricto yung gusto mong makuha na results. Now, there was one time since we have problems regarding the neutrality of the answers. So, with permission, we remove the neutral part. But then again, you need to ask permission if it's okay or not. But it is possible. We had one, I think, a couple of research before that has no neutral value, only the considerable part.
Okay. Let's have another questions. There's let's ask a question coming from Doc Chavez. I think Doc Chavez have a question, but can we do it? Can we ask her to say the question live?
Yes, Dr. Chavez.
Okay. Doc Chavez, are you still there?
Yes,
Am I
Dr.
allowed
Gretchen?
to, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually. The first question that I asked was technical in terms of the number of responses, the row, vis-a-vis the column, number of variables. Are there any rules regarding that? Because for example, in the factor analysis, which is not the composite, not the composite one, for example, you have to have at least a rule of thumb of 7. So
Yes.
I was wondering if there are rules in here using your PLS.
Based on
You have
experience,
so many variables and you only have few respondents.
based on experience, none for now, Dr. Chavez, because I mean, good thing about Smart PLS is that it can compute small sample size.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know, because right now I'm actually working on a project where I have a couple of items in one scale and there are several scales. And then
Yeah.
I'm looking only at about less than 100, maybe 80 to 90 participants. So that means
Yes.
that if I were to use PLS, I should be able to know the rule of thumbs in the application. And the other question is, are you willing to be, for consultation regarding projects in UP Cebu? Like in my case, for example.
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
of
thank
course.
you. Thank you for
Dr.
that assurance. Yeah, so my third question actually on the chat is, does UP Cebu have its own software for us to use? You already answered that because you were saying that you were using this for free for already 2 years. So I suppose we could use the
Yes.
student version for that.
Still version, but the computation is still okay. So
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much. Yeah, those were my questions actually. The first, the
Thank
technical,
you.
and then next is the availment of the software. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Doc Chavez.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Chavez, and thank you very much, Dr. Hazel. So,
Thank
yeah,
you,
at this point, can we
Sarah.
give our love and give some love to Dr. Hazel for having this, for simplifying things? Well, for people like Dr. Gretchen, Dr. Anna Kimbo, this must be something in their daily language. But for some people like me, this the technical terms can be very overwhelming. But what I love in the software is graphic.
Yes.
Jera would love the colors. It can make things more creative. And thank you very much for making it more understandable to all kinds of people. And
You're
oh, there's a
welcome.
YouTube live question. Do we need, wait, do we need to do another testing of the instrument after modification? That's our last question for today.
Sorry, what modification are you
I think
referring
they
to?
are referring to after the pilot testing, would they have to retest again the questionnaire after the pilot testing?
Okay. Based on experience, we only had one pilot test for every research. So that will do already.
Okay, so that will do already. Well, thank you very much. Again, a virtual clap and all the love to Dr. Hazel and UP Cebu TLRC with Professor
Thank
Jera,
you. Thank you
Sir
very much.
Michael, and Miss Noel for giving us this wonderful training. And there's a question from Moiko, which will be answered by Jera. Can we have a recording of this talk so we can review? Miss Jera, what is our answer?
Okay, so we will not be giving you a recording, but we have this live streamed on YouTube and you can review it through the YouTube channel of the TLRC. That's TLRC UP Cebu. Directly go to TLRC UP Cebu at YouTube. Okay, so you can review the discussion that we have here today. Okay. Michael, I think we are ready to send out the evaluation link for
Thank
this
you,
particular
everyone.
webinar.
Okay. Yes, so what you can see now is the evaluation sheet. And of course, you understand it will go up and up. So Michael will be keeping posting it. So please, the moment you receive your evaluation, and there's just a link, and after the evaluation, you shall get your e-certificate in less than 5 minutes. And that's one of the, okay, here. Our evaluation and processing of e-certificates are automated. Please make sure to type in the correct spelling of your name, since this will reflect your e-certificates. Also, please be mindful in typing your email address because it is where you will receive your certificates. We suggest you keep a copy of your response in the evaluation for you to verify if you made mistakes. Now, this is one thing we are proud of. Normally, it takes less than 3 minutes after submitting to receive your certificate. Should you are not able to receive it by 5 p.m. today, just send a reply message with your concern to the confirmation email that we sent at msgalorio@up.edu.ph. We will manually send a certificate on the next working day. Thank you very much. Well, as of now, this never happened, so which means no glitches with the technology. So thank you very much once again on behalf of UP Cebu TLRC and the UP Cebu ITTDO. It's ITTO stands for Bridgera. It's UP Cebu IT.
TTBDO, Technology Transfer.
Okay, and this is headed by Mr. Jason Nueva. Thank you very much. Have a safe day, and please stay tuned to UP Cebu TLRC Facebook, and YouTube for more updates on our incoming webinars. Thank you very much.
May we ask them to open their camera so that we can have a short
Yeah, I
picture
think
taking?
this is one thing we love in the Philippine culture. Parang we are expecting this. This okay. Thank you. Oh, I see some of friends. Finally, I see Karachi. Ma'am Vernice Ngo from Gotong, and yes, thank you. And of course, Sergio Manogas. See you next week, Serge. Okay, so let's smile.
Okay. Michael, are we ready to take the screenshots?
Okay, so
Yes,
thank you,
I'm
Anselmo
taking screenshots.
Patines.
Yes, we have 11 pages, so just keep smiling.
Wow.
Keep on
Okay.
smiling.
Keep on smiling. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Daghang salamat for being with us. I know some of you are our avid
Okay.
Yes,
viewer.
thank you very much, everybody.
I see Bernice and Jezebel. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Smile.
Thank you po sa lahat. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to join us
Sige.
in our next teaching series. We already have Sir Fernan Bernarda, Sir Aurelio Bilbar, Doc Hazel Chapero. There will be more coming soon.
Yes, in
Yes.
fact, on September 22, we shall be talking on some initiatives of our UP faculty and alumni on how to fight climate change. So if you have heard of solar panel, there's one thing I heard, tidal power. So meron pa lang ganon. Okay, thank you very much and hope to see you next time in our episode of UVisible TLRC webinar series. Ako po si Aurelio Vilbar. Have a safe day and congratulations, Dr. Hazel Trapero.
Thank
Ingat
you
po.
very much, and you're welcome.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
bye.
Hey, thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much.
everyone.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much,
Bye-bye.
Doc Hayes.
Thank you, Prof. Jera.
Thank you,
Okay,
everyone. Thank you
bye-bye.
for participating.
Yes, thank you.